Hercules was the greatest of all heroes in Greek mythology. Many of the attributes most valued by the ancient Greeks converged in him, since he not only enjoyed unmatched strength, but he was also a great exponent of courage, pride, and virility. His story is an epic saga that mixes heroic deeds, tragedy, and redemption. Although in Greek mythology he was called Heracles, Roman tradition transformed him into Hercules, as he is better known today. He was the son of Zeus, the most powerful of all the gods of Olympus, and Alcmene, a mortal queen. The goddess Hera, the legitimate wife of Zeus, did not forgive his infidelity, and she tirelessly tried to harm Hercules, something that would mark his life forever. From very early on, Hercules showed signs of courage and strength unbecoming of a human being. When he was just a few months old, Hera sent 2 snakes to his crib. Hercules killed each one with one hand, and soon afterward his nurse found him using the bodies of the snakes as mere toys. Hercules continued to show signs of bravery and strength during his youth, which earned him great fame and prestige. Precisely because of one of these demonstrations, he won the hand of the beautiful Princess Megara, daughter of the king of Thebes, Creon, and with her Hercules had several children. Years later, the goddess Hera, as a result of her ruthless hatred towards Hercules, caused him to have a fit of madness, during which the hero killed his wife and children with his own hands. Upon coming to his senses and understanding what had happened, Hercules decided with great pain to distance himself from society. However, he was found by his brother Iphicles, who convinced him to go to the Oracle of Delphi to find the redemption he so needed. There, the Delphic Sibyl, that is, the prophetic priestess, told Hercules that as penance he must complete the 10 labors entrusted to him by King Eurystheus, whom Hercules hated for having illegitimately taken the throne that belonged to him. If Hercules was able to complete the labors, he would atone for his sins. He would be turned into a god and granted immortality. The first job that Eurystheus ordered Hercules to perform was to kill and skin the Nemean lion. Hercules traveled to the place where the merciless beast lived, and upon encountering it, he attacked it with his weapons, but was unable to harm the animal since it had impenetrable skin. Hercules had to change his strategy and finally strangled the lion using his enormous strength. However, the work was not yet finished. Hercules still had to strip the lion of its skin. Although he tried for a long time to cut the lion's skin with a knife, all efforts were in vain. Finally, thanks to the advice given to him by the goddess Athena, the hero was able to complete the task using the beast's own claws. From then on, Hercules wore the skin of the Nemean lion as a protective cape and its head as a helmet. Hercules' second job was to eliminate the Lernaean Hydra, a terrifying monster similar to a sea dragon but with multiple heads, one of them being immortal. The hero traveled with his nephew Iolaus to the creature's lair and made it come out by shooting it with incendiary arrows. Once face to face, Hercules cut and cut heads from the monster, but from each cut, 2 new heads emerged. Iolaus then had the great idea of cauterizing the severed necks with a burning cloak so that new heads would not regenerate. Finally, only the immortal head remained, which was powerless without its companions. Hercules buried this last head under a large rock, thus killing the monster. But before leaving, he dipped his arrows in the poisonous blood of the Hydra to give them more destructive power. In his third labor, Hercules had to capture the Ceryneian hind, a majestic animal with bronze hooves and golden antlers. The hero chased the deer for a year, but it was impossible for him to catch the animal, since it was so fast that not even arrows could reach it. Finally, he managed to catch the hind using a net, taking advantage of the fact that the animal stopped to sleep. As his fourth job, Hercules had to capture the Erymanthian boar, a ruthless beast that could cause earthquakes at will and that preyed on men. When Hercules encountered the boar, he chased it for hours, until he finally cornered it in a snowy area where the creature ended up exhausted. Then, the hero was able to chain the boar and carry it on his shoulder to Eurystheus. The fifth job that Eurystheus entrusted to Hercules was to clean the Augean stables in a single day, which were the largest in all of Greece, with more than 1,000 animals, and having not been cleaned in 30 years. With this task, Eurystheus intended to humiliate the hero, convinced that his strength could not help him. However, Hercules, with his ingenuity, diverted the channels of the Alpheus and Peneus rivers, digging a ditch that led to the stables. In this way, Hercules was able to complete the job. The sixth job consisted of eliminating the Stymphalian birds, which were equipped with bronze beaks, wings, and claws, and which posed a great threat since they attacked the population and livestock. Hercules, upon arriving at Stymphalus, received the help of the goddess Athena, who gave him bronze castanets that he had to shake at the top of a mountain. The birds, frightened, fled forever, but Hercules was able to kill some of them using his bow and arrows impregnated with the blood of the Hydra. The hero brought some of the birds' corpses to Eurystheus as a sign of his success. The bull of the island of Crete was a huge beast that breathed fire from its nose. Hercules was entrusted, as his seventh labor, to capture the animal and bring it to Eurystheus. King Minos of Crete granted Hercules permission to capture the bull, since it was a threat to the population. Hercules, with his great strength, managed to get on the back of the beast and subdue it, later taking it to Eurystheus, who offered it as a sacrifice to the goddess Hera. However, Hera did not accept when she saw the ferocity of the animal, and she freed it. Finally, it would be another mythical Greek hero, Theseus, who would kill the bull on the plains of Marathon. Hercules' eighth labor consisted of stealing the mares of Diomedes, the king of Thrace, who kept these animals chained and fed them human flesh. After a fierce battle, Hercules defeated Diomedes and threw him to his mares. The animals devoured him, and surprisingly, from that moment on they became tame and calm. The mares were finally freed, and legend has it that Bucephalus, Alexander the Great's formidable horse, was descended from one of Diomedes' mares. The next job, the ninth that Hercules had to perform, was to steal the magical belt of Hippolyta, an Amazon queen who had received the belt from her father Ares, the god of war. At first, Hippolyta planned to give the belt to Hercules without conditions, but the goddess Hera, who else, acted against Hercules once again, and tricked Hippolyta's Amazons into believing that the hero wanted to kidnap his queen. Thus, the confrontation was inevitable, and once again, the unbeatable Hercules emerged victorious, killing Hippolyta and keeping the belt. Hercules' 10th labor was to steal the cattle of the fearsome Geryon, a giant with 3 bodies and 3 heads. The cattle were guarded by both Orthrus, a 2-headed dog brother of Cerberus, the guardian of the underworld, and the shepherd Eurytion. Hercules killed them both, and when Geryon arrived, he also managed to kill him by shooting him with an arrow smeared with the blood of the Lernaean Hydra. Hercules had many difficulties until he managed to bring the cattle to Eurystheus. Among them, a giant named Caecus stole some of his cattle, but the hero was able to recover it and kill Caecus. Curiously, in the Spanish language, the word Caecus is used as a synonym for thief due to this mythological episode. Once the 10 labors were completed, Eurystheus claimed that the mission was not over yet, since the labors of killing the Hydra and cleaning the Augean stables should not count, given that Hercules had been helped by Iolaus in the first, and by the force of the rivers in the second. Thus, Eurystheus entrusted Hercules with 2 new labors. The 11th task that Eurystheus assigned to Hercules was to steal the apples from the garden of the Hesperides. The Hesperides were nymphs who guarded a wonderful garden owned by the goddess Hera, as well as the precious fruit found in it, some golden apples that granted immortality. In order to know the location of the garden, Hercules first captured the Old Man of the Sea, a shape-shifting sea god, and forced him to tell him where the garden was located. It was during his search for the garden that Hercules had his legendary confrontation with Antaeus, a half-giant son of Gaia, the Mother Earth, and the god of the seas, Poseidon. Every time Hercules knocked down Antaeus, he fell to the ground and came into contact with the earth, his mother, recovering immediately, making it impossible to defeat him. However, using his great strength and ingenuity, Hercules held Antaeus up high, preventing him from coming into contact with the ground, and finished him off with a strong bear hug. Finally, Hercules arrived at the garden of the Hesperides. There he met Atlas, the Titan who had been punished by Zeus to hold the heavens forever. Hercules tricked Atlas by offering to hold the heavens himself while the Titan got some apples from the garden. Atlas would have no problem getting the apples since he was the father of the Hesperides. When the Titan returned with the apples, he refused to carry the weight of the heavens again, but Hercules deceived him once again by telling him that he had no problem continuing to bear that weight himself if Atlas could hold it for a moment while the hero readjusted his cape. Atlas fell into the trap, and thus Hercules was able to complete his 11th labor. Hercules' 12th and last labor was to capture Cerberus, the three-headed dog guardian of the underworld ruled by the god Hades. With the help of the gods Athena and Hermes, Hercules was able to access the underworld. When he finally met Hades, the god told him that he could take Cerberus as long as he used nothing but his bare hands to do so. With a terrible blow to the beast's head, Hercules knocked it out of combat, but without killing it. He then put it on his shoulders and brought it to Eurystheus. The king, terrified of such a creature, told Hercules that if he returned it to its place of origin, he would free him from any new task. This is how Hercules completed all the labors and achieved immortality. From then on, Hercules continued to embark on new adventures, until sometime later he faced the death of his human part and accessed Olympus, accepted as an equal by the gods. But that is another story. Thousands of years later, the influence of the mythological Hercules is still palpable in our times, as we use expressions such as Herculean strength to refer to great strength, or Herculean task to refer to the difficulty of a task. That is also part of his legacy.